What would you say if I said, you don't actually have insomnia? You have jet lag. You'd probably look at me and think, don't tell me what I do and don't have. I know what I do and don't have. You are just a flight attendant, and I am the captain of this ship. So just get in the cabin and dance, monkey, dance. I might need therapy. Hey everybody, it's Erica from America, your favorite flight attendant, and today I am starting part one of a three-part series about how to sleep like a flight attendant. And the first part of that is considering the fact that maybe you don't actually have insomnia, maybe you have jet lag. Sounds crazy, I know, but stick with me on this one and maybe by the end of the video I will have convinced you. So let's go ahead and kick this off with the most obvious question of all. What the heck does a flight attendant know about sleeping? So glad you asked. You're so intelligent. Have you ever considered the fact that flight attendants and pilots wake up in a different time zone every single day? Not only do we wake up on different longitude lines, but we also wake up on different latitude lines. And sunrise and sunset is constantly changing for us, in addition to the fact that we're losing time and gaining time that should be dedicated to sleep. In addition to that, we do not have set schedules. Every single day, our time starts differently. Now, you may be thinking, jet lag is super obvious. You fly from America to London, and it's like a 7-hour time difference. And when you use jet lag techniques over there to catch up on your sleep, it's super easy, and you can do it in one day. In one day, you're caught up, you're sleeping just fine, no insomnia whatsoever. Have you ever thought about the fact that a lot of times when you go on vacation somewhere, you don't actually suffer from insomnia? You only suffer from insomnia when you're at home? That's the difference between what I call vacation jet lag versus staycation jet lag. Now, vacation jet lag would be if you have several hours, like 6, 7, or more hours of a time difference where you have to catch up. And for that, you would want to talk to a mainline flight attendant about how to catch up quickly. Or an avid traveler like me. I've done it before many times. But when it comes to staycation jet lag, you're going to want to talk to a regional flight attendant like me, because regional flight attendants, at least the ones in the US, we only have a time difference of about 3 hours max, where we go back and forth between California to New York. It's a 3-hour time difference. But then we also have north to south time differences. For example, today is November 30th, 2025, and sunset in Chicago was 4:22 p.m. today. But sunset in Miami, Florida was 5:30 p.m. today. That's in the winter. Then, if you were to flip that to summer, don't even get me started. Sometimes sunset is until 9:30 or 10 o'clock, depending on where we end up, and then sunrise can be 4 or 5 a.m. So we're moving within our home country, having to change not only from east to west, but north to south, and then also having our day start at different times, having our sleep getting disrupted constantly. And yet, it would be a major safety hazard if your pilots and your flight attendants weren't well rested. So using jet lag techniques, especially staycation jet lag techniques, we're able to fix our sleep very quickly and continue on with our job in a healthy and safe way. That's one of the things that I want to talk to you about today. Guess what the number one thing that flight attendants and pilots talk about on a daily basis? It doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. There's always one question that gets asked as soon as we step into the shuttle, and that is, how'd you sleep? We ask each other that every day. 8.5 years of getting into a shuttle with people that I've only flown with for maybe a day and asking that question. The reason we ask that question is because a lot of times we've never flown with each other before, so we're strangers, and it's like asking how the weather is. But we don't actually ask that question until we're getting out of the shuttle, because that is an important part of our job. That's work talk. Whereas, how did you sleep is the icebreaker for us. And every time we ask that, as soon as we get in the shuttle, it immediately unleashes all of the problems that we had with our hotel room the night before. Was there noise outside the door? Was there noise inside the room? How was the temperature? How were the blankets? How was the bed? How was the pillow? Were there like annoying little lights in there? Was there some kind of white noise that you couldn't get rid of? Did you sleep with earplugs or eye masks, or how did you sleep? And we then unleash all of the awful stuff that happened in that particular hotel room for us during the night, if we slept well, if we didn't sleep well. And then we begin swapping tips. Oh, you know what? Next time try this. Or, hey, did you know if you do that? And the next thing you know, you've got some amazing tips from other flight attendants and pilots. Not just that, but also from passengers. We get a lot of tips from passengers as well. And here's the other thing. Pilots especially are not allowed to take a lot of types of medication when they're not feeling good or when they can't sleep. They are limited because the FAA, I think it's the FAA, has regulated that it would be unsafe. They're only allowed like one pain reliever, and I think it's something like Tylenol, and they're only allowed one type of antihistamine. The way it was explained to me is that these were tested decades ago, and there's never been new tests for new medications to see if there's something better. So they are very limited on what they're allowed to take while flying. So I will be talking about that in the third video where I talk about supplements and medications, but today I just want to focus on your 24-hour sleep cycle. Now, again, you may be thinking, what the heck are you talking about, a 24-hour sleep cycle? Here's the other thing about me that you should know. If you didn't know this already, I've only been a flight attendant for about 8.5 years. But look at me. I'm not exactly young. I obviously had a career before this. My career, actually, while being a flight attendant, and for the last 22 years, has been a market and financial feasibility researcher. And that's just a very, very fancy way of saying that I do research. I don't do medical research. I don't do scientific research. I am not a doctor. I'm not in the medical industry. I do business research. But it's a very particular type of research that's kind of rare, and I'm an expert in my field. The type of research that I do is that I gather as much information as I can from the scientists, from the medical people, from the diet industry, from the YouTube videos, from magazines, from books, from wherever I can get information, and I gather it into a nice big fat pile. And then what I start to do is I start to shave away the stuff that's obviously fake, shave away the stuff that's been repeated over and over and over again as the pile gets smaller, and then eventually I get into a nice little pile of information that seems plausible. And at that point, I start looking for proof, so then that way I can set those pieces aside and get a smaller pile to where I get to information that I can't find proof on. And that's when I start testing things. Once I've tested things and once I have the bulk of the information that I feel is real and true and valid information, I then start to piece it into a picture and a story for my clients. So my job is to take all of the information that I've gathered and explain it in a way that's simple and easy to understand. And that's what I'm going to try to do today. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of doctors who are watching this who will correct me. And I just want to say, let's compare research. You've obviously done research of your own. I've done research of my own. And sometimes the only way to really figure this stuff out is to fill in the holes in each other's research. So whether you're a doctor or whether you've just been studying your own sleep patterns for however long you've been studying them, let's compare notes. I invite you to comment in the comments below and add on to things that you know, things that you've tried, what works for you, because everybody's different. What works for me might not work for you. What works for a lot of flight attendants or pilots doesn't necessarily work for me, and vice versa. And that's one of the things that I've learned in 8.5 years of having that same conversation over and over with thousands upon thousands of people. Sleep is different for everyone. I've been researching this topic for probably about 16 years now, and today I am going to show you the picture that has come together for me in the last 16 years and the things that work for me and that I've heard work for other people so that you can also develop your own sleep pattern. The key to a good night's sleep. Now, before I get into the 24-hour sleep cycle and how every minute of your day can affect your sleep tonight, let me first talk to you about one of the most important elements that has to do with your sleep, and that is your eyes. You probably already know this, and you're probably thinking, I'm going to skip this part. But wait, don't skip ahead yet, because like I said, this is about research. And your eyes are super important when it comes to your sleep. They are the beginning and the ending of your sleep cycle. You probably know that, because anybody who's read about the circadian rhythm has read something about lights and blue lights and stuff like that. But did you know that the color of your eyes could affect your sleep? Still here with me? Okay, so before I get into that, let me tell you a quick little story. About 10 years ago, before I became a flight attendant, I was standing in line at my favorite coffee shop one day when the guy in front of me turned around, looked me in the eyes, and said, "Oh, your eyes are green." Now, in case you guys don't know this about me, my eyes are very, very green. There is like no hazel in my eyes whatsoever. They're kind of a forest green, and they run in my family. So when this guy turned around and said, "Your eyes are green," my response was, "Yeah, I know." And he said, "My eyes are green too." And I was like, "Huh, look at that." And then he said, "Do you know that green eyes are very rare?" And I said, "No, they're not. They can't be." And here I'm thinking, I see green eyes every day. What's he talking about? And he said, "No, they're very rare. Green eyes is not a common color." And I thought about it later and I realized, oh, the green eyes that I've been seeing every day are my own eyes, my mom's eyes, my youngest child's eyes, my brother's eyes. It runs in the family. So when you see your family members every day and they have the same eye color as you think that's a normal color. But it turns out he was actually right. Green eyes are a pretty rare color. Now, after telling me that green eyes were rare, he then proceeded to quiz me. And he said, "How's your day vision? Do you need to wear sunglasses in daylight?" And I said, "Yeah, I can't walk out of the house without sunglasses. It gives me a headache instantly. I have to wear sunglasses during the day." And then he said, "How's your night vision?" I said, "Excellent. I can see for miles while driving late at night." And he said, "That's very common for people with green eyes. Everybody that I meet that has green eyes, I ask them those same questions, and the answer is always the same." Now, here's something interesting that I think somebody who's only well traveled and who has a sensitivity to light might know. In California, I have to wear sunglasses every single day, especially in Southern California. The color of the sky is different throughout California, and there's something about the brightness of it in California that literally gives me migraines. And not just me, but my brother, my mom, and all of my relatives that have green eyes. We have to wear sunglasses in California, but I don't actually have to wear them in Chicago. The sky here in Chicago is different. And it's not just Chicago. When I was in my 20s, I had already figured out that I had to wear sunglasses everywhere. I spent a year abroad studying in Ireland. In Ireland, I didn't need to wear glasses. And it amazed me back then to see how blue the sky was in Ireland compared to how white the sky was in California. The color of blue in Southern California was very pale in comparison to the beautiful, rich blue of Ireland. And it's similar here in Chicago. I don't think Chicago's skies are as blue as Ireland's skies, but they do have their days when they're absolutely gorgeous. And I realized as a flight attendant that there are many states in this country that I can travel to where I don't need to wear sunglasses. And then there are other states where it just kills me. I have to put on a hoodie or a hat or glasses. Otherwise, I can't really walk out of the hotel. Now, apparently, there's a reason for that, which I'll get into in just a moment. And it's something that may also affect somebody with blue eyes. My husband and my oldest child both have blue eyes, and I've asked them, "Do you have a sensitivity to light? How's your night vision?" They don't seem to have the same issues that I have. So I think in general, there's different issues for blue eyes, there's different issues for brown eyes, there's different issues for green eyes. But here's the thing. I did notice last year in my own house, I have this one room that I would sit in all the time. They have huge windows. They let in a ton of light throughout the day. And then I noticed I was starting to get headaches when I was sitting in that room in the afternoons because the sunlight would shine directly into that room and just really brighten the room up. And those headaches would then make me tired. And I would then feel like I had to sleep to reset the headache. If that makes sense to you, then you might also have a sensitivity to light because the sensitivity to light that could give you headaches might also make you tired instead of wired. Now, in the same way, as I get older, my vision has definitely been changing. Started pretty much around the time I became a flight attendant, but I also, like I said, noticed as I go to different states, my vision is different. My need to sleep is different. My fatigue is different. This year, especially, has been very hard for me because I'm hitting that age where a woman's body is taking her final swan dive or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know. But sleep is not a problem for me. Energy is. And your eyes are not only the key to your sleep, they're also the key to your energy. And I am definitely lacking it throughout the day. I think my eyes have reached this point of sensitivity, plus the changes that I'm going through, plus the possibility that I might have ADHD and it seems like my dopamine levels might be plummeting, have created this trifecta that makes me want to sleep all day. And yet, ironically, when the sun sets, I'm suddenly wide awake. I have so much energy in the evening. And that probably has to do with the lighting in the house because it's an artificial light and it's generally the right amount of light for my eyes. I've set all of the lamps to give me the right type of light. For me, I prefer a more golden light to a white daylight kind of light bulb. So that's something to think about when you're thinking about your eyes. Your eyes might actually be setting your circadian rhythm in a way that's different from other people simply because of the shortcomings that have to do with your eyes. And I can get into that a little bit more. Let's go to the desktop real quick. Okay, so here we go. I just threw in Google real quick just to show you, are there any sleep studies about eye color? And it says, yes, some sleep studies suggest eye color can influence sleep patterns and how people react to light. For example, some research indicates that people with lighter eyes may be less sensitive to light and have a stronger melatonin response to darkness, potentially making them more resilient to seasonal affective disorder. Which, if you don't know what that means, it's basically like the winter blues. The shorter days make it harder for you to stay happy and awake. In contrast, other studies have found that people with darker eyes may tend to fall asleep later. Now, how eye color may influence sleep, A study found that light-eyed Caucasians had a significantly larger suppression of melatonin secretion when exposed to light compared to dark-eyed Asians. This suggests that eye color may affect how the body's sleep hormone responds to light. With sleep timing, one study found that people with dark eyes tended to fall asleep later than those with light eyes, a pattern that appeared stronger in winter. Researchers theorized that light-sensitive proteins in dark eyes might stay activated longer, prolonging the body's perception of daytime. What I found from some of the research that I have done about eye color is that darker eyes have more melanin in them than lighter colored eyes. And the melanin protects the eyes from too much light, which prevents the light from damaging the eyes. So lighter colored people have less. And this might have something to do with sensitivity to light and how light can affect your sleep. So I just wanted to point that out real quick, but I also wanted to show you this. Are there any studies about blind people's sleep patterns? And it says, yes, there are numerous studies on blind people's sleep patterns, consistently showing a high prevalence of sleep disorders, particularly among those with no light perception. These studies indicate that blindness, especially total blindness, can lead to a disruption of the body's internal clock, resulting in issues like insomnia and a condition called non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder. The point is that your eyes are so important in the sleep cycle that if you are actually blind or losing your vision, this can very much throw your sleep pattern off. If your eyes are a light color, it can change your sensitivity to light and darkness. People with darker colored eyes might go to sleep later than people with lighter colored eyes. I think all of us are either morning larks or night owls or somewhere in between. I myself am a night owl. I get all of my energy once the sun sets, and I could probably stay awake all night if I needed to, and then I pretty much drag all day long. I'm not saying that's how I sleep, because I would prefer to be awake at a decent hour, but in all honesty, I enjoy the quiet of a late night. So in a way, I give myself my own staycation jet lag, because I don't go to sleep when I know I should go to sleep. I prefer to stay awake and enjoy the quiet of the house. And anybody who has kids probably understands what I'm talking about. Your 24-hour sleep cycle. Let me start off by saying that I am going to go completely off script when it comes to what the research says and what jet lag says. I've read so many research reports over the last almost 2 decades now. I've read books, I've read reports, I've read magazine articles, videos. All of that was crap when it came to becoming a flight attendant, because all of those sleep studies would lock in specific hours. They would generally say around 10 p.m. your melatonin levels start to go up, and that is going to put you into sleep. But then around 2 a.m., your melatonin levels are dropping and your cortisol levels are coming up, and now you're starting to get closer and closer to consciousness. It's a survival instinct. That's somewhere along the basis of how they would explain the cortisol levels and why our body does it that way. Since this is a flight attendant themed video, I am going to call all of the periods I'm talking about for the next 24 hours time zones. And each time zone is named specifically to help you get an idea and an image of what is happening during each time period throughout your day that could not only affect your sleep, but affect your weight as well. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and jump into the repair zone right here. The repair zone is your first 4 hours of sleep. Now, again, doesn't matter if you're a night owl, doesn't matter if you're a morning lark. The first 4 hours of sleep is crucial to your body. Your body takes this period of time to repair the damage that you've done throughout the day. Now, I've read articles that have talked about how just normal basic movement causes micro tears in your muscles. And there's also the foods you eat and toxins you ingest and other things like that. So your body needs at least 4 hours a night to repair that. And that is usually going to be your deepest sleep. That is going to be the sleep where you don't want to sleep. You could be awake for days, and then your body says enough is enough, and it will just take you to your knees. And the next thing you know, you're out for a good solid 4 hours. And then you might wake up 4 hours later and be starving, or you might not be starving at all. You might just have to go to the bathroom. Basically, your body considers the repair zone the most important time of your sleep. And so you will get a minimum of 4 hours of sleep pretty much any time you sleep. Here's what's important to know about the repair zone. During the repair zone, your body begins to shut things down inside of you. It brings you down to basically minimum level of working, your skeleton crew. It shuts off all of the major stuff that you do throughout the day, and it just keeps stuff going like your lungs and your heart. Your blood pressure slows down, your breathing slows down, your brain kind of starts to quiet down and even shut off or take you to a different place, depending on how your brain works. And during that time, what kind of ends up happening is your body temperature will drop. The way that I think of it is that all of your cells will start to squeeze together because they're getting cold. That's the basics of science, right? Cold cells tend to get closer together, and I think of it as it's squeezing all of your fat cells, trying to get all the toxins and everything out, including getting some of that stuff out from your muscles. While the repair stuff is happening, it's just throwing all of that crap into your bloodstream and your sweat glands. So it's basically prepping itself. And once the 4 hours is done, it's done as much repair as it can do, and it moves from the repair zone into the flush zone. Now, the flush zone is divided into 2 cycles of 2 hours each. I think you probably know that deep REM sleep is about 90 minutes, but you also need about half an hour to get into deep REM sleep and to come out of deep REM sleep. For me, it's as simple as thinking of a flight. You go up to the gate says that it's a 2-hour flight. You get into the plane and the flight attendant says it's an hour and a half flight. And you're like, wait a minute, the gate said 2 hours, why are you saying an hour and a half? That's because half an hour of that time is taxi time towards takeoff, and then taxi time after landing. That's how I think of it. You need that 90-minute REM cycle to flush your system, and you need that kind of 15 minutes going into it and the 15 minutes going out of it, or sometimes even half an hour into it, and then you come out a little faster on the other end. I'm not sure the exact dynamics of it. I think everybody might be different on that point, or it just might be that every day is different, because there are some days that I come out of it slowly and some days that I come out of deep REM quickly, and that's without an alarm. Now, the point of that is, during each of those REM cycles, your body is now getting rid of the waste. It's basically sending all of that waste to your liver. And again, this is how I came to understand it through all the different things that I read. Part of what I'm talking about now came from the 8-hour diet, which talks about the liver. Basically, what's happening during the flush zone is all of that waste that was thrown into the bloodstream and into the sweat glands is now ready for transportation through your body. So your body temperature will warm up during the second 4 hours of sleep. And you might wake up and find yourself covered in sweat. You might even find that your mind is racing more, or maybe sometimes even your heart might be racing a little bit more. But your body is now heating up so that the cells will start to separate. And again, this might sound totally crazy. There's probably going to be some doctors that say that's not exactly how it is. But this is how it came together in my mind. And I think understanding something like this can help you understand what your body needs to do. Your body needs that first 4 hours of repair time, and it needs 4 hours of flushing time. I've been tracking this for probably a decade now with all kinds of things. But basically, according to the 8-hour diet, all of that waste that your body doesn't need gets dumped into your liver, and your kidneys immediately excretes out through urine. Your liver is like a recycling station that will either send certain stuff back into the body to be used again, or it'll send it to be dumped. So that's supposed to be what's happening in the flush zone. Now, for me, it's very common for me to wake up at the 6-hour mark and have to use the restroom. This is part of what I was tracking for the last 10 years. At the 6-hour mark, there's a good chance that you can still get back to sleep for another 2 hours because your body wants to do that second flush cycle. But sometimes if it's too bright outside, your body won't necessarily let you do that. Or if your brain is too active, you won't be able to do that. Either way, you have to make a decision. What I've often found is that second sleep cycle, if I'm able to go back to sleep for 8 hours, I will lose as much as 2 pounds of weight. And it's not permanent weight. It's kind of like you gain weight throughout the day, and then your body can flush a large portion of that weight. And I have found that the difference between 6 hours and 8 hours is as much as 2 pounds of weight loss. The difference between 8 hours and 10 hours, like 0.2 pounds. Like pretty much nothing. The interesting thing that I think about this too is that you would think your body is dehydrating during this time because when you go to use the restroom, your urine in the toilet is usually like neon yellow. And then at the 8 hours, it's a little less so. And then surprisingly, at the 10-hour mark, you might find that the toilet is clear. So I don't necessarily think that it's so much about hydration as your body is clearing out a lot of toxic stuff that it doesn't want. I've also found that the difference between 8 hours and 10 hours, there's no extra energy for me. I don't know about for you. I have read that at different points in your life, you're going to need different amounts of sleep. Let's say you wake up at that 6-hour mark and you're laying in bed and you're thinking, I really want to go back to sleep, but I only have X amount of time before my alarm's going to go off. Here is a jet lag tip that's going to help you have more energy and help you get back on track for sleeping faster. If you have less than an hour and a half of time that you can sleep, just get up. Don't go back to sleep. If you have an hour and a half or more, then go ahead and go back to sleep. For example, say your alarm clock is going to go off at 6 a.m. and you wake up at 3:30 a.m. and you get back in bed and you can feel yourself dozing. You've got at least 2 hours until your alarm goes off. Go back to sleep. But if you were to wake up at, say, 5 a.m. and your alarm's going to go off at 6 a.m., get up. Don't go back to sleep. Get out of bed. Turn on your lights. Start going about your day. The reason for that is because if you start your second REM cycle and you're in the middle of your REM cycle when that alarm clock goes off, you are going to have to drag yourself out of bed. It is going to almost feel physically painful to climb out of bed. You know what I'm talking about. You've been there. It's actually better for yourself that if you have less than an hour and a half or less than 2 hours just to get up, you'll find that you will have more energy throughout the day. And then when you go to sleep later that evening, you'll probably go to sleep a little bit earlier because your body will be ready to start the repair cycle sooner. How you mess up your sleep during the day. And now that you're awake, I have an important question for you. How awake are you? Also, how hungry are you? Because those two things seem to be incredibly related. Having flown 8.5 years and waking up at all different times of the day or night, having my sleep interrupted by all kinds of things from soccer teams that are outside of my door to super loud air conditioners and fire alarms in the middle of the night. I've had so many reasons why my sleep has been interrupted and it's been shortened or lengthened. I have noticed different patterns. Some of that came from the research that I did, which I then began testing. One of those things is the repair zone. Like I said, when you go to sleep, you're going to sleep for 4 solid hours minimum. And most likely you're going to make it to 6 hours unless something external wakes you up. Now, if you get up at the 4-hour mark, I find that I'm immediately hungry. From the research that I've done, it seems that all of that waste that your body created just gets reabsorbed back into the fat cells where it's at to clean out your bloodstream so that way it can continue to process food and send energy that it gets from food to the different cells throughout your body. Like I said, I'm simplifying this. If you're a doctor, forgive me for trying to make it this simple. So basically, I find at the 4-hour mark, I am immediately hungry. And not only hungry, I'm nauseous. If I don't eat now, I'm going to throw up. And that's partially because your stomach bile has turned on like that. At the 6-hour mark, you get a little bit of time before that bile switch turns on. And then you suddenly feel like you're going to have to eat or throw up. I think part of the reason for that is that you've had one flush happen. So some of that waste that came from your body is now in your liver. And your liver is saying, hey, some of this can be used for energy right away. According to that book, The 8-Hour Diet, your liver can use as much as 2,000 calories from the waste that gets dumped from your body in the morning. And you want to use that and burn that up before the hunger signal kicks in. So the hunger signal will kick in a little bit faster at the 6-hour mark, but not as fast as at the 4-hour mark. On the flip side, if you wake up at the 8-hour mark, you may find that you're not hungry for an hour or 2 hours, maybe even till lunchtime. And that's because your body has a lot more waste in the liver that it's able to use. So you want to listen to your hunger signal in the morning because not only is this a great chance for you to drop some weight that you might not want, but it also will tell you where your body is at when it comes to energy. So when you wake up, you basically are in what I call the energy zone, which is where your body is trying to feed off of your liver. And you can burn through that by trying to exercise before you eat. Also, according to that book, once you actually eat something, your body will then take what's left over in the liver, send it back into your body to be stored, and then switch directly to your stomach for energy. The other thing about the energy zone is this is when you're going to start your circadian rhythm. And the best way to do that is to throw your curtains open wide. If it's still dark outside when you throw those curtains open wide, turn on your television, especially a big screen TV, because a big screen TV will give off a lot of blue light, which is basically daylight lights. And you're convincing your brain that, hey, it's morning, let's party. Here's the other thing, and this is something that I learned from ADHDers. There is a trifecta that can help you get more energy. And that's what I've been focusing on lately is how to get more energy when my hormones are absolutely out of whack. The first one is to walk outside for a minimum of 8 minutes. And again, this comes from the 8-hour diet. You want to do this without glasses on. And I don't mean like reading glasses, no sunglasses, because you want that natural morning light to get into your eyes. If you need to, put a hat on instead of sunglasses. Point 2 is by walking outside. There's 2 benefits to this. 1, you're getting more oxygen into your lungs, and the oxygen is going to get the bloodstream going, and it's going to help clear out your bloodstream even more before you eat. You want to do that because a clearer bloodstream is going to allow more energy throughout the day. And then 3 is the dopamine part. Now, a lot of ADHDers would probably get excited about this and go, oh, dopamine, that's my bread and butter. Dopamine is the energy chemical in your brain, and it usually gets generated with happiness. And a lot of ADHDers know that they're going to get more dopamine if they listen to music, if they walk with a friend, if they talk on the phone, if they make it a game, if they make it a competition, a bunch of things like that. About a week ago, I was watching an ADHDer, and he said one of the best things that you can do is actually just walk in sunlight without headphones, without any external stimulation to get your dopamine up. Instead, you want to amuse yourself with your mind. And by doing this, you are retraining your brain to release the dopamine from within and only relying on itself versus relying on an external source to get that dopamine. So if you're going to take a walk, it's a good idea to not put your headphones in and just talk to yourself, amuse yourself. Think of songs, think of dialogues. Try to stay in a positive light, and this will give you more energy. I have been experimenting with this, and it does seem to help a lot. I've mentioned in another video, I suspect that I have ADHD. I'm in the process of trying to get tested to see if that's true, because the last year has been very rough for me energy-wise, and I seem to have all of the same characteristics that people with ADHD talk about. So that's one of the things. There was a second bonus that I mentioned by walking outside. That is your vagus nerve, which I believe is right here in the neck. The vagus nerve is supposed to help you with calming you down, reducing cortisol, giving you more energy. There was something I read that said the vagus nerve really likes cold air. If you go walking out in the morning and you leave a scarf behind, you can bundle up the rest of your body but leave your neck exposed. You have a very good chance of reducing the cortisol. That has been increasing since around roughly 2 a.m. And that cortisol is there to wake you up. It's also considered the stress hormone. So sometimes excess cortisol can be considered damaging to the body. So taking a walk outside with cold air on your neck, with the oxygen going through your system, talking to yourself, having fun with your own brain, can release enough of what you need to give you energy throughout the day. The bigger the meal that you eat at lunchtime, the more likely you are to put yourself into a food coma, meaning you're going to end up wanting to take a nap. So you may want to consider leaving your lunch lighter for creating a lunch that will help energize you and give you the building blocks that you need to repair your body without putting you into a food coma. But just be mindful that the more that you eat at lunchtime, the more likely you are to crash when you come to the next part, which is the dip zone. What is the dip zone? The dip zone is that time of day when all of a sudden your energy just crashes out. It's the time of day when you feel like you really need to take a nap. But you can't take a nap because maybe you're at work or maybe you're doing something else and you really just don't know what to do. Ironically, when you're on vacation, you don't really get hit by the dip zone because everything you've done earlier in the day, which has been out in the sunlight and walking and exploring and having fun and getting your dopamine up, it's more than 10 minutes. It's all day because you're exploring a new town. So a lot of times when you're on vacation, you don't hit that dip zone. But when you're at home, when you're at work, it's very common to hit that dip zone because you have less light, you have less motion, you have less activity going on. On top of that, if you ate a big meal, that's going to help push you towards a nap. But here's the thing that I read in the article. The article said that the dip zone was the time of day when your body switched over from focusing on processing carbs to focusing on processing proteins. And it basically named a time zone of 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. roughly, but I'm a flight attendant. I'm in different time zones all the time, waking up all the time. And what I found is that for me, it actually hits around the 8-hour mark from when I woke up. So if I woke up at 4 a.m., by 12 p.m., I am going to be dead on my feet, feeling like I need to take a nap or else. Part of the reason that I am a night owl versus a morning lark is that if I got up at 4 a.m., I probably didn't have as much sleep as I wanted. Now it's noon, so now I'm short on sleep and I've hit the dip zone where my body is like, nah, we don't need to process carbs anymore. Let's just store those and focus on proteins. And now I'm tired, but I also have a headache. And once I get the headache, then it's like I really need to sleep so that I can reset that. That nap is like a reset button sometimes. On the flip side, if I woke up at 10 a.m., which is usually my ideal wake up time, then the dip zone is going to hit me around 6 p.m. I kid you not. Right around dinner time, I will feel like I need to sleep immediately. I will try to keep myself awake by eating something, but then I'll just eat and end up going to sleep. However, 6 p.m. is also not my bedtime. So I am going to wake up. Now here's the thing about napping that I want to point out. All of these companies that sell these sleep watches, they talk about the sleep bank and how you can go short every single day throughout your week, and then on the weekend, all of a sudden, that sleep bank catches up with you and it makes you pay the price. It knocks you out, drags you down into deep sleep, and you might sleep 10 or 12 hours. That doesn't happen for me. For me, my sleep resets every day. I either get 6 hours of sleep every day or 8 hours of sleep every day. And here is what I have found to be true, and you can test this yourself. It's very likely that you might find that your body reacts like mine. Whatever nap you take today is going to come out of your 8-hour sleep for tonight. So if you take a 2-hour nap in the middle of the afternoon during your dip zone, you're only going to sleep 6 hours maximum tonight. Think about that for just a minute. Most of the time we seem to think that, oh, I'm super tired. I only slept 6 hours last night. I need to catch a nap today. My body's making me sleep for 2 hours, and that's just catch up for earlier in the day. No, it's not, because your body reset itself during your morning energy zone. Your body is in a new cycle now. So basically, that nap is going to come out of tonight's sleep. And tonight, you're only going to sleep for 6 hours max. Try it, test it, see if it's right for you as well. Because that has always been the case for me. Does that mean you shouldn't nap? Not necessarily. There's a difference. If you take a power nap of 30 minutes or less, you don't enter deep REM sleep. Because you don't enter deep REM sleep, you will come out of it and you will have forced your body to switch over from carbs to proteins faster. And you'll wake up and you'll get your second wind and you'll go through the rest of the day with more energy. So a power nap of 30 minutes or less can be fantastic. Sometimes you only need a power nap of 5 minutes to reset. To do that, it's very simple. You just have to get uncomfortable. One of the things that I'll do sometimes is I will go sit in a chair because I can never sleep for more than half an hour in a chair sitting up, whether it's in the car, whether it's on a plane, whether it's in the crew room. If I'm sitting up while I'm sleeping, I will only sleep for 30 minutes max. Sometimes I lay down on my love seat and then I'm uncomfortable because my neck's at a weird angle, my legs are at a weird angle, and my body will say, enough, get up, you're starting to cramp. And that's a relief. Other times if I'm in the car, like if I'm on a road trip or something and I suddenly feel like I need to pull over and take a nap, I'll pull over to a rest stop and then I will put my seat back, turn the music up loud, and conk out for 5-10 minutes. And that music penetrates my subconscious and says, get up. It's literally like a reset button. So if you take a nap of 30 minutes or less, the 5 to 20 minute zone is perfect. You have not put yourself into repair mode. And so you actually will able to still get 8 hours of sleep tonight. If you know that day after day, you are not going to get much sleep because your sleep cycle is not going to be normal. I'm a night owl. If I know that my flights are getting earlier and earlier every day, I know I'm not going to sleep no matter what because my body naturally wants to go to sleep around midnight to 1 a.m. If I have to get up at 4 a.m., I'm going to be waking up in the middle of that 4-hour repair cycle. That's a nightmare for me. So I have learned as a flight attendant that on those days, you have to take that 2, 3, 4-hour nap and let your body try to do what it started the night before. I really think at that point, it is playing catch up. But then again, tonight, you're going to have a hard time sleeping even 6 hours. So if you know your sleep cycle is going to be messed up day after day because maybe you're working this week, then you want to go ahead and allow yourself that deep power nap because that is going to keep you healthier. It's not going to get you 8 hours of sleep tonight. It's not going to fix your insomnia, but it is going to keep you feeling more energetic, getting rid of the headache, and helping you keep going more. You're going about your day, you're doing whatever. A lot of times you get those munchies right as you're starting to prepare dinner. Snack here, snack there. That's not a big deal. But here's something that I read that I can't seem to find any evidence of. I have found stuff that says, oh, that's not necessarily true. But I tested it for me, and it definitely seems to be the truth. And I've told other flight attendants about it, and they've tested it, and it's been the same for them as well. Are you ready? I read an article that said, according to a sleep study, for every hour that you sit or lay around, it registers as 20 minutes of sleep for your body. So think about that for a minute. If you have an office job, or if you get home and you lay around on the couch for a long time, for every hour that you do that, your body thinks it's getting 20 minutes of sleep. So for every 3 hours, think of it as 1 hour that will be deducted from your sleep tonight. You can reverse this by wasting your energy and going out and exercising and doing all kinds of stuff. But if you're mostly inert throughout your day, if you work an office job, or if you just lay around and watch TV all day, you will probably only get about 6 hours of sleep tonight because you will have not actually activated your body enough for it to need deeper sleep. And your body will have been silently working because you've let it shut itself down. I truly believe that's why sometimes you'll only get 5 hours of sleep and you'll be like, I feel so rested. I feel so good. Wow. And then other times you'll get 7 hours of sleep and you'll be like, I'm dying. I want to die. I started tracking it for the last 2 years ever since I read that article. When I wake up in the morning, I write on my calendar how many hours of sleep I got. And then I would put a plus and then 3x if I was laying around. So say I went to bed at 8 p.m. and I woke up at 8 a.m. But I only slept about 5 hours of that 12 hours that I was laying in bed. Then the other 7 hours I would mark as plus 7x. And that would be equivalent to 2 hours and 20 minutes. So sometimes that 5 hours of actual sleep plus the 7 hours of laying around, I would get up and I would feel totally rested. Whereas other times I might sleep for 6 hours and have only been in bed for 6.5 to 7 hours and I feel exhausted. I don't know if it's a placebo effect that my mind does the math on that or if it's an actual thing. But like I said, I've mentioned this to other flight attendants. They've tried it out and they have found that it's the same for them as well. They've also found that if they use more energy and they get up at least once an hour and walk around for 10 minutes every hour, they sleep better. Because then their body isn't like, oh, you just slept. So that's something to think about as you're laying around all day. That just getting up once an hour and moving so that you're not constantly laying there could help you sleep better tonight. Also, laying in bed for several hours before you fall asleep can also be your body refreshing itself without you actually having done anything. That might be why when you wake up in the morning, even if you got less sleep, you might feel more energetic than if you slept 8, 9, 10 hours. During the dinner zone and the danger zone, supposedly your body is now processing proteins instead of carbs. And part of that is it's going to use the proteins to rebuild your muscles. You also can eat vegetables and that can help put minerals and vitamins into your body. Any sugars or carbs that you eat during this time, your body won't necessarily know how to process it and it could spike your blood sugar. So you want to be very careful after dinner about how much sugar, how much bread, how much pasta you eat, because these could not only spike your blood sugar, but your body wants to repair itself. So it's more likely that your body is going to shove that into its own little storage container, like the shed behind your house, and deal with it later. And unfortunately, later often ends up on your hips or your belly or your underarms. So the best thing that you can do for dinner to make sure that you sleep well is to stick to fish and fowl and veggies for dinner. Now you may be thinking, but I really want to eat red meat. If you want to eat red meat, that's fine. But here's the thing. Fish, fowl, eggs, cheese, yogurt, all of these things process very quickly, anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. So they'll have gone through your stomach and been processed by the time you go to bed, say around 10 o'clock. Red meat and pork tend to take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to process, so you might be going to sleep or trying to go to sleep while your stomach is still processing that. And because of that, that might get stored into fat cells and you will very likely gain weight by morning. And if you don't believe me, just weigh yourself every morning when you wake up. You will see that closer you eat certain meals towards bedtime, the more your weight will go up in the morning. I've tracked this for over 10 years. It's like clockwork for me. Everybody's different, but if it's clockwork for me, that means it's definitely clockwork for several of you as well. Here's the other thing to keep in mind during the danger zone. Once the sun has set in your actual physical time zone, your eyes are supposed to register that. What's supposed to happen is your eyes send a signal to your brain to release melatonin into your stomach. And that melatonin is supposed to neutralize the stomach acid. If you have a large screen TV that you watch, that gives off blue light. And blue light to your brain is daylight, which means you are more likely to end up sending a signal to your brain that it's still the middle of the day, it's possibly summertime, and it's going to keep you wide awake. Now, a lot of flight attendants and a lot of pilots, we don't even turn on the TV in our rooms anymore. Instead, what we'll do is we'll watch something either on our phones or our iPads, and we will turn the brightness all the way down. Because when you turn the brightness all the way down, you're cutting those blue lights, and that will allow you to go to sleep. One of the biggest things that you can do is take that TV out of your room, because even if you close your eyes and go to sleep, even if you put blinders on so that you go to sleep, the person sleeping next to you, that blue light will go through their eyelids even if they're asleep, and you're going to mess with their circadian rhythm. You're going to mess with their sleep. So one of the best things you can do is take that large screen TV out of your room and instead at night watch shows on your laptops, your tablets, your phone, and turn the brightness way down. If you have a laptop, there's a website called f.lux. I am not affiliated with them and I'm not sponsored by them. I've been using them for a long time. It's a free program that you download into your computer and you can program it to cut the blue lights as the sun sets. That way, if you're working on your laptop, your brain won't register the blue lights from your monitor and you'll be able to go to sleep better. Another thing you can do is you can get glasses with blue light blockers. There are some that you can get that literally are just glasses. They're anywhere from $5 and up. You can buy them on Amazon. If you have prescription glasses, you can ask them to put blue light blockers. But realize if you have blue light blockers and you wear them during the day, it's going to mess with your circadian rhythm because you won't be getting the blue light you need during the day to actually stay awake and energetic. Okay, guys, it's that time. Grab your remote because I'm going to try to wrap this up fast. As I just said, this was the 24-hour sleep cycle where you have basically 8 different time zones throughout your day. Each one can mess with your sleep. And I would really appreciate it if you have any tips, any comments, especially about your eye color. What color eyes do you have? How does it affect your sleep? Do you get headaches during the day like I do? How's your night vision? How's your day vision? I would love to know that kind of information if you want to put it in the comments. If there's things that you've tried in any of these time zones that have helped, if there's anything that you figured out, I would love to know more because I am always researching sleep. And like I said, the more we share our research with each other, the more likely we are to fill in the missing holes. I would love to know what you guys do to help you go to sleep. In part 2 of How to Sleep Like a Flight Attendant, I am going to talk to you about how to set up your environment, whether at home or in a hotel room or anywhere else, so that you can sleep whenever you want to sleep. And then in the 3rd video, I'm going to talk about supplements, medications, and trying to get your hormones fixed so that you can actually sleep better too. So if you guys like that, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when those videos come out. Also, if you liked it, please let me know by hitting the like button. That does go a long way in helping me promote videos like this. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao.